maintaining both PLG and SLG as a part of our comprehensive go-to-market strategy is critical because different buyers want to engage the offering in different ways. So I think it's actually what started out as being really complicated for us has turned, I think, into a competitive advantage that we can engage multiple personas, multiple types of users, and engage them in the way that they want to experience our technology and consider if it's going to be valuable to their own go-to-market effort.
Today, we are joined by Kevin McIntyre, the CRO at Dealfront. Kevin dives into the exciting journey of merging two unique companies, EchoBot and Leadfeeder, to create the brand new Dealfront. And so Kevin shares how they are navigating the challenges of combining different culture, systems, go-to-market motion, all while keeping an eye on the market. So without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Kevin. Hey there! Are you letting your marketing and sales teams leverage the power of deep data? If not, you may want to check out Dealfront. It is Europe's leading go-to-market platform. And Dealfront draws from 3 channels of data: EU company databases, multilingual web crawling, and trigger event. And so this allows you to identify accounts exhibiting genuine buying intent, pinpoint key decision maker, access their contact details, and seamlessly integrate with your CRM for streamlined operations. With deep data comes a deep understanding of how to reach your revenue potential. Oh, and have I mentioned that Dealfront was born and raised in Europe? Therefore, no need to worry about data compliance. They know all about it. Learn more about Dealfront at wearesales.com/Dealfront. Again, that's wearesales.com/Dealfront. Can you kind of give some context behind it? Maybe talk about the merger. There was EchoBot, there was Leadfeeder, now it's Dealfront, and obviously they come with their own challenges, their own go-to-market strategies, their own sales motion. So can you kind of create some image around that?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks, Dylan, for having me here. So EchoBot and Leadfeeder both play in kind of this go-to-market and sales intelligence space. So Leadfeeder, a web visitor identification technology headquartered in Helsinki, Finland. And you have EchoBot that focused on sales intelligence, so business-to-business company contact information and additional intelligence surrounding those entities, headquartered in Karlsruhe, Germany, so about an hour and a half outside of Frankfurt. So EchoBot, primarily a German organization focused on the DACH market. Leadfeeder, much more pan-European and global in nature, remote-first organization. So they came together, brought together by a private equity company, Great Hill Partners, based out of Boston in the United States. And the merger came together in mid-2022. So the hypothesis around if you have good command of first-party intent data, who is visiting your digital properties and your website, expressing an interest in your brand, and then you have the data in order to intelligently engage those organizations, you're spending your time in the right way, and you end up being in a position where you can start to develop this more of a dynamic ideal customer profile. And any organization should, at some fundamental level, have an understanding of the market that they're engaging. But by learning more about the types of customers and accounts that you're attracting to your digital properties, the ones who you're having success with in your engagement, you can continually refine your total addressable market and more specifically your ICP, so you can utilize your marketing and sales resources more effectively.
Exactly. All right. And so that merger happened about a year and a half ago?
So it was mid-2022. And the organizations were running kind of generally autonomously in parallel while, some of the background work comes together to bring the organizations together. And then the Dealfront brand and platform was introduced to the market in April 2023.
All right. Gotcha. All right. So what can you say about then the go-to-market strategy and the sales motions that you had at EchoBot and Leadfeeder, and then how you had to transition to maybe still work with both of those motions or actually try to create like one and same motion for the entire solution. Like what can you say about that?
Yeah, and this has been I'd say I'd love to write Harvard Business Review case study on this, because I've found it to just be an incredible experience, not just for me, but for our team and also our customers. So just a little bit of background on how Leadfeeder and EchoBot both went to market to engage, attract, and win their customers, and kind of the evolution we're going on within Dealfront. So Leadfeeder is very much kind of founded, born, and raised under the PLG. So they're primarily a PLG driven solution where marketing, sales, and operational professionals are able to engage with the Leadfeeder brand, install a tracking script on their website, and engage in a free trial to instantly start to have visibility to the types of companies that are engaging with your website. And then you have all this great information about these organizations, so you can leverage that first-party intent data and how to go after those types of companies. And there's cool other use cases that can be involved there. So when you're engaging with a particular prospect and you see them coming to the website, it gives you a reason to reach out to them. Or if you're a customer success manager and you see customers not engaging with the website, like that could be a reason to reach out to see kind of that lower level of engagement. So there's a lot of interesting use cases there. If you're running ad campaigns, understanding the effectiveness of those and how it's driving traffic to the website. But that's a PLG use case where users have the ability to enter a trial and see firsthand the value that Leadfeeder provides. And then there's a sales motion layered on top of that to engage with the trial participants, to help them better understand how to utilize the technology. So they get engaged in training, help them understand pricing, answer any questions that they have. And it puts the trial participant in the organization in a position on whether they want to continue perhaps in more of a light mode where they don't have to make any financial commitments to Leadfeeder, or if they want to take advantage of the solution and make a subscription commitment to the business. So again, very, very PLG driven. EchoBot, on the other hand, an SLG organization. So much more of that traditional kind of inbound requests, discovery, demo, maybe a trial if that's how the organization wants to buy, and then puts us in a position where we've earned the right to ask for their business if we're addressing their requirements. So bringing those solutions together is interesting, right? There's a PLG element for a certain set of capabilities. There's an SLG element for a certain set of capabilities. We have one organization in Leadfeeder that is, as I mentioned earlier, much more pan-European in nature, right? And there's more of a global approach to their solution, whereas EchoBot's history was anchored in Germany with a strong focus on German B2B data, but also expanding and driving value into other European markets. So coming together to create a unified platform, we had to really kind of figure out how that was going to work, right? Is everything consolidated into one sales cycle? Are we trying to pitch an entire platform at the same time? Do we just focus on use cases? Does PLG win out? Does SLG win out? And we learned a lot, right? We're still figuring this out. That ultimately we are in a position where we are very much focused on land and expand. We want to work with prospective customers focused on their initial set of requirements, the problem that they are experiencing, where the capabilities and data across Dealfront can add value, and whether they're starting with web visitor identification on their website, or whether they're trying to define their total addressable market, or they need contact information to engage prospective accounts. We can engage with them in context of a single use case, we onboard them, deliver value, and we earn the right to expand either within that use case or cross-platform adoption. So what that ultimately means is we run multiple go-to-market motions at Dealfront. For web visitor identification, we continue to rely heavily on a PLG approach. And for sales intelligence entry points, it's primarily an SLG driven approach as well. And then we onboard them through a quality experience within the product. We have a customer success motion that supports that onboarding and getting to that regular pattern of usage where it's delivering value. And then hopefully we've earned the right to open their eyes to what the platform can do if they adopt multiple use cases. So I'll pause there. I realized that was probably a lot. And if there's any specific questions, happy to unpack that a bit.
Yeah. No, thank you for the elaborated introduction. I think it helps a lot to clarify also the further question that will come, because I think it's interesting that you had indeed those two go-to-market strategies that were actually very different to one another. It's not that you had kind of some overlap. I mean, of course, you had maybe in both contexts the sales team that were trying to move revenue towards the company, but still very different. So can you bring us back also maybe into that go-to-market strategy meeting? Like, how do you even start having that discussion? I'm just thinking if we have other people in the community going through a similar story, like eventually they will have that meeting and they will have to ask themselves like very good questions to tackle those challenges. Like, so what are the questions that they should ask themselves? What are the metrics that maybe they should look at? What are the assumptions that they have to test and try out in the market? Like, what were the things? Like, how did that meeting look like for you?
Yeah, and just I think before talking about the meeting, let's just focus on what some of the inputs were kind of leading up to it. Obviously, it wasn't just one meeting, but I understand.
Oh, definitely.
just looking around kind of the dialogue and the decision-making process there. So ultimately, as reference, right, we have two organizations that have a different solution, but still very much aimed at marketing and sales organizations, all in the interest of targeting, engaging, and winning their next best customer. And there's different approaches in doing that. And a lot of excitement around bringing those two solutions together that can be a part of an integrated platform. And that can deliver against multiple use cases to different personas. So in bringing the two organizations together, there was a lot of excitement around this platform, right? And now we get to sell a platform. We can engage different personas, different teams. Our value proposition expanded, and we got really excited about selling that comprehensive vision. And we quickly realized that nobody wakes up in the morning just saying, "Hey, I need a go-to-market intelligence platform."
Would be nice,
right? Like it's a bit nebulous. It's kind of vague. It doesn't actually hit on a specific problem, right? Like a platform is supposed to be able to deliver an integrated experience to deliver against perhaps different use cases and multiple requirements that an organization may have. And not many buyers are trying to do all of that at once. Now, I think the value proposition of a platform is if they get started with you, that new customer has the ability to grow with you, and they can embrace working with perhaps a single vendor or at least less vendors as their needs may expand, right? And I think vendor consolidation is a thing that is certainly happening, and that ability to address multiple needs with a single partner is valued. So I think that's kind of the first takeaway that I would kind of share with the audience is when you are looking to embrace change, and whether you're going through a merger or whether you're introducing a new product line, that just be aware of what the actual buyer journey is, right? And at the end of the day, we still realize that even though we were bringing together these two organizations under the umbrella of a single platform, not many were going to try and bite all of it off at once. They would still have an entry point for a specific business problem or use case that we would have to validate that Dealfront could address those requirements, bring them on, and then be able to deliver and demonstrate how cross-product or cross-platform adoption can benefit their organization. And make sure you understand how the buyers want to engage and work with your products. And that's why maintaining both PLG and SLG as a part of our comprehensive go-to-market strategy is critical, because different buyers want to engage the offering in different ways, right? And some just want to see the product. They want to live it. Like, demos and just sales calls aren't good enough, right? And in other situations, they might need to see it, right? And they need a professional and a seasoned professional who has seen how this has worked for other similar organizations, and to be taken through what the day in the life looks like before perhaps engaging in a trial. And you want that expertise up front to better understand that fit. So I think it's actually what started out as being really complicated for us has turned, I think, into a competitive advantage that we can engage multiple personas, multiple types of users, and engage them in the way that they want to experience our technology and consider if it's going to be valuable to their own go-to-market effort.
Yeah, because so you got like those different motions that responds to different preferences of the buyer, which I get. But you also, I imagine, have to balance this out with the CAC or the payback time to CAC. So how do you try to, keep like a clear idea of what motion could work or what motion should we test out first, so that you can actually figure out what are the motions that we can allow also?
Yeah, that's a really good point, and is becoming much more front and center for us as a part of our management system this year. So in addition to just looking at the ARR, the revenue that each of these different channels are bringing in, understanding the efficiency and the sustainability behind them is really critical. So I've made this intentionally a bit more simple when describing this, that we have a PLG motion for kind of a certain use case or solution, and an SLG motion for the other use case and solution. But there are definitely layers to that, right? So within the PLG motion, you have one that's more focused on European buyers. We have another that's focused on more US and North America centric buyers. With the SLG motion for our primary sales intelligence solution, again, B2B company and contact information, we have a team in Germany, and within Germany, there's different markets, right? You have SMB, mid-market, and larger enterprise type clients, and we're expanding throughout Europe into new markets. And so we look at each of these channels through their own lens, right? And looking at really critical metrics of being able to diagnose the success that we're having across, of course, the ARR being driven by channel, but how the sales teams are performing, right? And month by month, quarter by quarter, what's their capacity in terms of pipeline creation, in terms of the discovery calls that they're having, in terms of the trials that they're facilitating. So we want to ensure that the capacity for the resources we have supporting these motions is improving, right? And if we see that improving, we feel that we're doing the right things. But then also, to your point around CAC and CAC payback, better understanding the cost of what it is to bring this in, and balancing that with what is a tried and true motion for us, right? That is something that we need to depend on. That should be, when we're looking at our direct costs across the sales costs, the direct marketing costs, perhaps sales development costs, where that layers into some of these motions, is that CAC payback 12 months or less, right? And if it's not, then we need to better understand where these inefficiencies are. For newer motions where we're experimenting, it's never going to be as efficient as something that's perhaps been operating for a couple of years. And there has to be I think, a little bit of patience to try out some of these new things. So for some of the newer motions that we have, we're aiming for around 15 months or less. But some of them definitely weren't, right? When we got started last year, some of them were kind of made your eyeballs pop out right away and like, could this be right? But when you look at things in a really short period of time, you don't really, it's a data point, it's not a trend, right? And so over time, these things have started to approach a little bit more normalcy, and that's perhaps another takeaway I would give is that when you are testing and trying new things, you have to have a little bit of patience. A month or two of data is not enough time to validate whether something's working or not, right? That you're getting out there in the market, that you're having an opportunity to engage new prospects or customers and run and get experience with new sales cycles. It's going to need time, right? And depending on the length of your sales cycle, whether it's a couple weeks or a couple months, or I'm sure some of the audience here is engaging in larger six-figure deals where you may have 9 or 12-month sales cycles, you have to let that play out to know whether kind of these bets or moves that you're making are gonna yield the results in the long term. So I know sorry, go ahead, please.
Yeah, no, I was just going to go and say that, yeah, I've heard it somewhere else that we always say that we need to be more consistent, but being consistent is one thing, but it's sometimes even more patient that is crucial. We just want results immediately, so we are being impatient, but definitely, that's a good point.
Hi there. Are you identifying anonymous companies visiting your website and automatically sending them to your CRM for sales team to convert? If not, you may want to check out Dealfront. It is Europe's leading go-to-market platform. With Dealfront, you can discover exactly what your website visitors are looking for and engage with the right leads at the right time with a message that captures their interest. By the way, they are already serving more than 10,000 clients across 27 European countries. To learn more about Dealfront, go at wearesales.com/Dealfront. Again, wearesales.com/Dealfront. And now, back to the episode.
No, I also wanted to ask you about
if you have just real quick on that. Patience is good, I think, as long as you know what good looks like, and you know what success is that you're working towards. If you don't have a good command of what the underlying metrics and KPIs that you're looking at and what direction they need to be going in, and you're not looking at it while you're being patient, I would assert that you are wasting time. Right? Like you have to have those indicators underneath. And even if, for example, your CAC payback for a new product, you're entering a new market, it's a new go-to-market motion, perhaps you're going into enterprise, you're looking at a new segment, and that kind of core metric of CAC payback is not what you want it to be. You need to understand what those leading indicators are that would drive improvement for that long term. And are you looking at that monthly, weekly, daily to see are things moving in the right direction in terms, whether it's in terms of lead volume, it's pipeline creation, it's sales activity behind that, right? It's customer sentiment that we're seeing, right? If you're on top of that and you can see the progress that's being made, having patience is a great thing. But if you don't have those underlying data points picked out and you're just kind of waiting to see if it works,
it's wasting time.
I challenge that.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. What I also wondered was, especially if you have that merger with the different teams going after different go-to-market strategies, different motions, you blend them together, you put them together. So how does the organizational structure then change? Or how do you approach that? Do you just keep it as it is? And then depending on the assumption and the hypothesis and the data, then you start to changing a little bit of things? Or how do you approach the organizational structure when you have those two teams merging together?
It's a good question, and I don't think there's a single right answer for it. I think there are some wrong answers, but I think there's usually a couple different ways to solve a situation like that. And the first point I'll make, and this is not a cop-out answer, and saying it depends on how to get started. So if you're merging two organizations of similar solutions, right? And perhaps you were competitors or you were alternatives to each other in the market. Believe in coming together, you can have a much more compelling and valuable solution for your space. That is going to be different than perhaps two organizations merging or an acquisition happening when they're perhaps adjacent to each other, right? And there's incremental value, but they don't play in exactly the same space. So that's something that I think will impact how you structure your team, because I'm a big believer in focus helps drive execution, which will drive results. And generally speaking, when you're going to bring two go-to-market revenue organizations together, like you should have a common structure across those teams. And I think keeping groups separate, unless it's a very intentional strategic decision to just let that company continue to operate autonomously. But if you are looking to bring that together and have more consolidation in your go-to-market approach, yes, you should bring these teams together. And generally speaking, this is not eye-opening perspective or a hot take for anybody, right? I mean, when you look across the customer landscape, you look at your perhaps sales development resources, you may have new business account executives, and you have your customer teams, and whether that's composed of customer success managers, account managers, however you've structured that, that's going to change whether you're a $1 million ARR company or a 50 million ARR company, and your ability to invest those different types of resources. And then your foundational pieces, right? Your revenue operations, your enablement teams. So being able to bring those together is just going to be good for the sentiment of the team, right? And like when you are coming together, you want to create unity as best you can. And whether you're maintaining kind of the same brand identity as one of the original organizations, or you're creating something completely new, the way that we ultimately decided to do with Dealfront, creating a unified team is important. Now, within those specific segments, that's where decisions have to be made, right? And whether sales professionals, CSMs, AEs, account managers, are they covering everything? Are they just focused on one thing? Do you want them to just adopt kind of the singular motion and just be really, really good at that, right? So that can scale and be repetitive, and you can grow with that and constantly refine that. Or are you having them kind of adopt more and take more on and tell a broader story? And perhaps that leads to higher average selling price on your deals. And that's something you'd rather kind of slow that down, kind of broaden the sales cycle, but you're going to have perhaps more value and you're going to win bigger deals. That's going to have to be a decision you make, or whether you want to act with velocity and speed, capture that interest, prove value quickly, bring them into your customer base, and then grow with them. So ultimately, we decided, particularly on our new business side, is to keep teams focused on what they know, the use case where they can execute, help them understand the platform vision, of course, and how that use case ties into the broader story and the journey that customer can go on with us. And then, of course, aligning customer success skills and knowledge to the right types of customers. And you invest in cross-training and other enablement programs to ensure that their skills and knowledge expand. But in that initial stages, I think keeping the expertise on the right prospects and customers is just going to put your business in a better position. So I hope that helps a bit.
Yeah. So you still have to have that high level structure that will work for the entire organization, but then inside those different teams, you can, of course, look at what will work then for the new brand, for the new solutions and the new motions.
Yeah, and even I think I would go beyond just, this isn't just applicable to mergers and acquisitions though, right? Because if you're a B2B SaaS organization and you have a singular application and you have kind of a common singular go-to-market motion that you're just continually making more effective and efficient, but perhaps you bring out a new product, there's a new application, or there's an add-on, or whatever that may be, being able to understand whether that's something you want the existing team to take on, whether you want a dedicated group to be responsible for that. Again, balancing like that focus and subject matter expertise to make that more effective. So it just for the listeners, this guidance isn't just applicable to M&A and new teams coming together. It's the introduction of really anything new that impacts your go-to-market motion.
Love that nuance. Thanks for adding that. What I also wondered was how you guys actually opted to go for a completely new brand that perhaps doesn't have any resonance yet in the market because yes, it is new. So why that choice? Why not going for just one of the two?
It's a good question, and there were different opinions on it across our leadership team. Yeah, and it's like both organizations had been in their respective markets for the better part of a decade. There was brand recognition. One had admittedly more brand recognition in a very specific market. One had a little bit more broader appeal. But ultimately it came down to, it was a merger of equals, right? Very similar revenue streams, very similar employee and team composition. And in the spirit of creating a unified approach and a unified culture and kind of the shared desire to take this new thing to the next step, ultimately we decided that creating a new identity for everybody was the right thing forward. Now, maybe you could have analyzed, hey, look how many LinkedIn followers this one has, or which one has more G2 reviews, and which one's going to resonate more with the combined vision, and one wins out. We probably could have done that, but humans and emotions are real things, right? And if you have half of the company now taking on the identity of like the other guys, that has an impact, right? And it's hard to quantify what that impact is, but it's sensitive. And ultimately, instead of having kind of one win out, which could have worked, it was just the decision we made that we'd create something new together and we'd all be in this kind of fresh,
I like it.
Forge our own path.
Yeah, it's that psychological idea of you create a winner and a loser, and now you say, no, we are just equals, we're just the same, so let's just work with a fresh new brand that is all of us together. So I think that makes sense. When you bring those two teams together, though, I can also imagine that at the beginning, it's exciting. You have those two teams, you have those new colleagues, you have those new motions. They are working with PLG, they are working with SLG first. So you're excited and all over the place. But at the same time, I imagine you still have to make your numbers. You still have to make your work. So was that a challenge at all? And if so, like, how did you guys try to manage that? Like, have the people excited, yes, but also make sure that we still keep performing.
Yeah, and that was definitely the challenge for last year. And while we learned a lot and it was exciting to come together and launch a new brand, launch a new platform, execute against our roadmap and from the product and platform and data side, and then also for our sales and customer results, it's a year I personally never want to experience again. It was just a lot, right? And bringing teams together, forging a new brand, which to your point in the previous question, no identity, right? So not only are you trying to launch a new kind of combined platform and refine your go-to-market motions, bring teams together, you're also building out a new brand. And you have two kind of operational systems that were finely tuned to those respective go-to-market motions for years and years and years. And now all of a sudden you're kind of one team trying to bring that together, the way that you look at data. And we entered a new CRM environment. And so like all of this on top was it was a lot of distraction. Right. And it was admittedly, and like we've had this conversation, and I'm not sharing anything new in this forum that we haven't talked about within our teams. They faced a lot of disruption. Right. And unfortunately, I think our customers experienced some of that as well. Right. When our customer facing professionals are kind of struggling with this constant drumbeat of new things and change, that's going to reflect on how they engage with prospects and customers too. So we learned a lot. Admittedly, we probably bit off a bit more than we could have. In hindsight, I'm glad we did, because now it's behind us. So that is the challenge, right? And how quickly, and the speed and the proverbial just kind of ripping off the Band-Aid, right? And let's just like embrace all this change so we can address it and get to normalcy again, where we're kind of constantly managing, inspecting, and trying to scale the business. It was a year of disruption for us. I think we grew, and especially in context of what we went through and some of the macroeconomic headwinds that we were all facing last year. Very respectable growth, and I'm proud of what the team achieved, and proud of our customers for kind of hanging with us and through some of the unknown. But happy to get to 2024 and not have to go through that again.
Yeah. No, thanks for sharing that. I think it makes sense somehow, but I can also imagine that is not per se what you want at that moment in time. But then also, I can also imagine that you as the CRO, and also maybe many other leaders inside the organization, inside Dealfront, need to take a certain level of responsibility, a certain level. You need to create like a new cohesive culture that just works for everyone. And I think that culture oftentimes need to come from leadership in the first place. Like, so can you kind of, help us understand like what was your role and the role of the other leaders inside Dealfront to kind of, have that culture in place and just make sure that, it just resonates with the entire organization?
Yeah, thanks for that. And there's a couple elements and facets to that. And I think when you hear, I'm a first-time CRO, right? This is the first time I've held the title and have been accountable for the comprehensive revenue motion, from lead acquisition, qualifying, winning new prospects through their comprehensive growth and renewal and retention with our organization. And I love it. I mean, it's been quite the kind of year and a half or so for me. But what I quickly realized within the role is, and I've shared this on LinkedIn and across my teams, I view myself as more of an architect than a sales leader. And what I mean by that is my first and primary responsibility is to ensure that our go-to-market motion is structured in the right way to engage the market, to go after the right types of accounts where we believe we can drive value, to progress those experiences in the right way, and how we've earned the right to win their business and be a part of their growth and their own go-to-market engagement with our data and platform. And having the right team structure in place, the right systems, insights, and processes to support those motions, that we have the right management structure in place and how we communicate, how we inspect the business, that we have the right supporting motions there, again, from a leadership perspective, from solutions and tooling and insight, from the enablement and training that they're getting, from the communication channels that we have. And when you're in this, I think some people like to kind of divide things, and are you in a wartime mode or a peacetime mode, right? And the way that organizations or businesses or countries, for that matter, operate in like wartime versus peacetime is just different. And when you're going through, like, clearly we're not at war, and I know I'm exaggerating, but it was a period of disruption and a lot of change. And so communication and being in sync is so incredibly important. And that over communication and repetition in finding different ways to engage people, right? And at an individual level, you have to put yourself in people's shoes, right? So an individual AE who is carrying a bag, right? So they're used to selling one of the brands and the product, and perhaps they've been with the organization for a couple of years and they know it cold, right? There's few other people that can do that job as well as they can. Now they represent a new brand. Now that single application or product is a part of something bigger. When you're introducing a new brand, perhaps your lead flow gets a bit disrupted. I mentioned we changed CRM environments, right? There's new people, there's new teammates. That's a lot of noise when at the end of the day, you're still just trying to build pipeline, advance these discussions, and win deals to fulfill your quota, right? And when you're focused on that and all of this is going on, being in sync with where the business is going and making sure you're not missing anything or not representing things incorrectly in front of your prospects, or you're able to work in an efficient way, is challenging. So trying to find multiple ways of communicating with the team is important. And you can't expect that because you've said something once, everybody's heard it, right? And so we started instituting a lot of different forums for people to receive updates, to ask questions, and whether these are just simple things like specific Slack channels for different topics, but introducing monthly revenue team specific all hands calls, having kind of weekly videos from myself to the team, just kind of reflecting on my observations across the business or emphasizing things that are important. We work with our enablement team to provide what we call our weekly digest at the end of the week that kind of works across all the different functions that impacts go-to-market, whether it's a product update, whether it's a marketing update, whether it's a new bit of competitive intelligence we have, and try and summarize this for people because stuff comes out in different Slack channels or different meetings, or perhaps it was only communicated to leaders and didn't make its way down. It's hard, right? So trying to find these different communication channels to engage people, to help them be in the best position to continue working with confidence was really, really important for us last year. And I think we did some things really well. We did some things not so well, but I'm confident we're learning from those and continually trying to
iterate and improve on it. Yeah.
Hi, guys. Before we dive back into the episode, I've got something super, super exciting to share with you. Mark your calendars for May 16 because We Are Sales 2024 is happening. And this isn't just any conference, it is the conference for European sales leaders where you can expect to learn from the best and be surrounded by the most ambitious revenue leaders from Europe. And so whether you're an aspiring sales leader, sales director, VP sales, or chief revenue officer, the We Are Sales Conference is truly the place to be. Tickets are now available and you can grab your ticket by visiting our website at wearesales.com/conference. Again, it is wearesales.com/conference. And now, back to the episode.
Yeah, because for context, Leadfeeder was remote first. EchoBot was not, but now Dealfront is remote again, right?
Yeah, we are remote first organization. We do have a number of offices where we have kind of a critical mass of teammates. A lot of kind of the heritage or legacy EchoBot group remains kind of in Germany, and we have a nice presence in Karlsruhe, but people are empowered to work from home if that's what is best for their personal lives, their family lives. Some people thrive in a home office. Some people need to kind of separate, have that separation. And if they're living by an office, they have that opportunity. But yeah, we are a remote first company, and it allows us to attract talent from different cultures and different countries and different experiences where maybe we wouldn't have had that if we tried to stay kind of anchored in certain geographic regions.
Yeah, no, for sure. And also to your point, just of having that communication and repeating, setting expectations. I think when you're doing it remotely, yes, you have advantages, such as attracting new talents, but I think it also adds on a layer of complexity when it comes to communication.
Yeah, that's well said. It does, right? And I think that one of the challenges of remote first work is that I think there can be a struggle to be like totally focused. And some people I'm sure have the ability to remain focused on a certain thing, a certain conversation, a meeting, a task at hand. But I do feel that there's validity in that when you're in the same office and somebody's sitting across from you, Like you're going to look them in the eye and have a conversation, right? And whether it's in a team meeting or whether it's just one-on-one, like you're locked into that. Like generally, you're not going to be trying to answer this email or work on this presentation or catch up on these Slack messages. And like, I catch myself doing it, and I'm intentionally this year trying to be much more focused that when I'm in a meeting or talking with somebody, I'm totally locked in, giving them that respect and not kind of letting distractions get the better of me. So in a remote first setting, you have to be aware as a leader that people are distracted, right? It's not that they're working poorly or there's anything necessarily wrong with that. It's just human nature, and it's all in front of us, right? So again, it just emphasizes that if you think you've said it enough times, you probably haven't. And you have to leverage different forms of communication. Only doing things with Slack updates isn't going to work. Email updates isn't going to work. Just having a team call every once in a while. I think you have to embrace multiple channels.
Because everybody prefers like another way of communicating, or how do you mean?
Yes, I think some people embrace things differently. Some people learn well from perhaps an update call or a quick video or reading something. Some people don't like email. Some people don't like Slack, right? And trying to figure out what works best for people. But again, ultimately, our ability to just read something, absorb it, and hold on to it for a long time is limited, right? And I think just making sure that it's front and center with people is really key. I mean, it's the same way any sales development or business development professional out there, right? Like if you're trying to go after a target account who you feel is a good fit for your product or solution, it's not best practice just to use one channel, right? You're not just peppering the hell out of them on LinkedIn or just sending them 1,000 emails or only doing cold calls, right? You embrace a multi-channel approach. And generally, you're not just trying to reach one person, you're trying to engage multiple people at an organization and embrace multi-threading and hopefully doing it in an intelligent way and not just kind of spray and pray. But you have to embrace multiple channels. And it's the same thing internally, right? If you're communicating with people, in order to land that message and connect with people, you have to use multiple channels.
I like that. I always love when you make parallels with the sales profession, because it is also so true, actually. So yeah, maybe one last question, and maybe it's a personal one, but I'm kind of curious also. I kind of have an assumption on why this could have been the case, but also you have been appointed CRO right at the merger. So I assume that they maybe went for someone external, again, maybe to not have that conflict of why do we have to choose a CRO from the one or the other, just look at external. Was that the reason why they went and looked for someone external, or was there other reasons for that, or was it just because you were at a great time, at a great place, or why? Yeah, can you share maybe about that?
Yeah, thank you for that. It was a little bit right time, right place, right? And that's how I think life tends to work, right? And sometimes you don't seek out opportunities; they just kind of come your way, and you have to embrace it. I mean, if you can't tell from my accent, I am American. I moved to Italy specifically from Boston in 2022, kind of right at kind of the trail end of the pandemic, with a different organization. I was working with a multinational global organization and had the opportunity to embrace I was in a global role, and being able to take advantage of that opportunity made a lot of sense for me at the time. So my wife and I moved to Italy, and then this opportunity presented itself. I had experience at a company I'm sure many of us are familiar with, ZoomInfo, which plays in a very similar space as EchoBot and where Dealfront is evolving, specifically with the focus on the European market. So that experience and having also just, I won't play this down, this is also a very real thing, having some personal connections with some of the players involved, particularly with the private equity company that had the vision to bring these two entities together. That certainly had a role. But yes, I think part of the driving guidance behind that was some fresh perspective from somebody who has been a part of larger organizations. I've worked for big companies like IBM. I mentioned I was a part of kind of Zoom Info's growth. I've been a party to or involved directly in, I think, close to 7 acquisitions or kind of merger experiences throughout my career as well. So that type of experience, I think, lent itself to something that a lot of the existing team and leadership hadn't gone through. And I work with incredible leaders, right? And if any of them are listening to this, I have such tremendous respect for what they have contributed to those organizations to put it in a position where it could come together with this opportunity to be Dealfront. And they remain tremendous people who I look up to and respect and depend upon each and every day. But I'd like to think, just from a personal perspective, some of my outside experience, and that I wasn't biased towards like one company or the other, that I could learn and embrace all of it and help paint a good path for the Dealfront's growth and success.
Yeah. I think it all makes sense. I think it's kind of match made in heaven. So I hope that you're enjoying your position there, Kevin. I wish you nothing but the best for it. If people want to connect with you or learn more about Dealfront, like, is there a direction you want to send them to?
I was going to say something funny because part of being in the like B2B data space, perhaps you can come across my email address and maybe one of the tools that you're working with, that you can try and find me through technology like Dealfront or a market alternative. But LinkedIn is the best. LinkedIn is the best. So you can find me, Kevin McIntyre, and and we'll see in my description at CRO at Dealfront.
Perfect. Well, Kevin, again, thank you so much for coming on, for sharing your experience. I think it's quite fascinating one. We haven't had anyone yet coming on the show that just come and took the leadership role after a merger. So I think it was a very interesting conversation. I feel like we will still have to have you one more time again to talk about those 7 acquisitions you have experienced in the past. I think it might be an interesting one as well. But for now, thank you so much for coming on. And again, I wish you nothing but the best.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dylan. I appreciate the opportunity.
That's it. We've once again reached the end of an episode. I just really appreciate you all spending the time. If you like what you heard, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. And until next week with a fresh new episode.